Imagine moving into your dream home in a quiet suburb, only to have the neighborhood's self appointed guardian, a sharp tongued white woman in her signature pink suit, declare war on something as simple as your mailbox. But this isn't just about property rules, it's a veiled attack rooted in deeper prejudice. What starts as a petty dispute escalates into a bold act of defiance that transforms a symbol of exclusion into a beacon of resistance, drawing crowds and exposing hidden biases. Buckle up. This tale of revenge uncovers the ugly underbelly of suburban racism. In the sun-drenched suburbs of Oakwood Hills, a gated community on the outskirts of Atlanta, Georgia, Jamal Washington finally planted his roots. A 42-year-old Black architect with a passion for blending modern design with cultural heritage, Jamal had saved for years to buy this spacious colonial-style house. It wasn't just a home. It was a statement of achievement after overcoming barriers in a field where faces like his were rare. His wife, Aisha, a school teacher, and their two young kids reveled in the fresh start, picturing barbecues and bike rides under the canopy of mature oaks. The neighborhood seemed idyllic at first. Manicured lawns, friendly waves from porches, and the occasional block party. But lurking beneath the surface was the Homeowners Association, a tight-knit group led by Karen Thompson. Karen, a 55-year-old white woman who always strutted around in her impeccably tailored pink suits, had been the HOA president for over a decade. She ruled with an iron fist wrapped in Southern charm, enforcing rules that kept everything uniform and tasteful. To outsiders, she was the epitome of community spirit, organizing bake sales and holiday decorations. But to those who didn't fit her narrow vision of perfection, she was a gatekeeper of exclusion. Jamal's trouble began innocently enough. Wanting to personalize their new home, he designed a custom mailbox inspired by African Adinkra symbols, intricate patterns representing strength and perseverance, etched into weathered wood with a sleek metal frame. It wasn't flashy. It was meaningful. A nod to his Ghanaian ancestry that his grandparents had passed down through stories of resilience. He submitted the plans to the HOA for approval, as required by the covenants. Weeks passed without a word, building a quiet anticipation in Jamal's mind. He imagined it standing proudly at the curb, a subtle emblem of his family's journey. One crisp autumn morning, a certified letter arrived from the HOA. Karen's signature looped at the bottom like a noose. The mailbox was denied, deemed unsightly and inconsistent with the community's aesthetic standards. No further explanation, just a curt demand to install a standard-issue model from the approved vendor list. Jamal felt a familiar sting, the kind that came from years of microaggressions in professional spaces. Why this design? He wondered if it was the symbols themselves that offended, evoking something foreign in a place that prized conformity. Undeterred, Jamal decided to appeal. He attended his first HOA meeting, held in the community clubhouse adorned with faded American flags and portraits of founding members, all white faces staring down. Karen presided from the head of the table, her pink suit gleaming under fluorescent lights, her smile tight as she called the room to order. Jamal presented his case calmly, explaining the cultural significance and how it complied with height and material guidelines. Whispers rippled through the crowd, mostly older white residents who nodded along with Karen's assertions that we must maintain our traditional look. One board member, a retired banker, muttered about keeping things neutral, his eyes avoiding Jamal's. As the meeting dragged on, Jamal sensed the undercurrent. This wasn't just about a mailbox. It was about who belonged. Karen's rejections often targeted newcomers who didn't blend in. The Latino family fined for colorful planters, the Asian couple cited for wind chimes. Jamal left the meeting with a denied appeal and a growing resolve. He pored over the HOA bylaws late into the night, his family asleep upstairs, the house quiet except for the hum of his laptop. Buried in the fine print was a loophole. Artistic installations over a certain size could be classified as sculptures, exempt from standard decor rules if they enhanced property value. An idea sparked, a way to turn rejection into something monumental. Tension simmered as winter approached, frost coating the lawns like a fragile veneer over deeper cracks. Jamal dove deeper into his plan, consulting local artists and zoning experts under the radar. He discovered that Oakwood Hills had a history of subtle segregation, with covenants from the 1950s that once explicitly barred non-white residents, rules scrubbed but spirits lingering. Karen's HOA seemed to echo that era, her pink-suited patrols ensuring no one disrupted the harmony. Jamal commissioned a renowned black sculptor from Atlanta, turning his mailbox concept into a grand vision, a 12-foot-tall installation incorporating the Adinkra symbols, woven with steel beams and illuminated elements representing unity and defiance. It would stand on his property line, technically a sculpture per the bylaws, pushing the boundaries without breaking them. Costs mounted, dipping into savings, but Jamal saw it as an investment in dignity. Nights blurred into research sessions, his eyes burning from screens as he gathered permits and historical precedents of art challenging discrimination. Meanwhile, Karen ramped up her scrutiny. She drove by Jamal's house daily in her white SUV, clipboard in hand, noting minor infractions like uncut grass edges or holiday lights left up a day too long. Anonymous complaints flooded the HOA inbox about Jamal's kids playing too loudly, his car parked at an angle. Neighbors who once smiled now averted gazes, influenced by Karen's whispers at coffee meetups. He's trying to change things too much. Jamal felt the isolation creep in, his family sensing the shift. Aisha worried about the kids facing taunts at school, echoes of "go back where you came from" that Jamal had endured in his youth. The emotional stakes heightened when Jamal uncovered old emails through a public records request. Karen had rallied board members against his mailbox, describing the symbols as tribal markings that don't belong in our upscale community. The language stung, coded racism veiled as aesthetics. It fueled Jamal's fire. This was no longer just personal, but a stand against systemic exclusion in supposedly progressive suburbs. He pushed forward, hiring workers who erected scaffolding under cover of dawn, the structure rising like a silent protest. Rumors spread like wildfire. Karen confronted Jamal one evening as he supervised the build, her pink suit clashing with the twilight. Though no words were exchanged in the retelling, her flushed face and pointed gestures spoke volumes of outrage. She filed emergency motions to halt construction, citing safety concerns, but Jamal's paperwork held firm. The neighborhood divided. Some residents secretly admired his boldness. Others rallied behind Karen, fearing change. Jamal's resolve hardened amid sleepless nights, haunted by memories of his grandparents' struggles during the civil rights era. Their stories of redlining and denied opportunities mirroring his own battle. The sculpture neared completion, its symbols gleaming, a testament to endurance amid mounting pressure. The unveiling hit like a storm on a sweltering summer day, the air thick with anticipation and confrontation. Jamal's sculpture stood complete, a towering fusion of metal and wood, Adinkra symbols interlocking in a spiral that caught the sunlight, casting patterns of strength across the lawn. It wasn't subtle, it demanded attention, rising defiantly at the edge of his property. Visible from the main road into Oakwood Hills. Neighbors gathered in clusters, murmuring as Jamal flipped a switch, illuminating hidden LED lights that pulsed with rhythmic glow, symbolizing the heartbeat of resilience. Karen arrived like a thunderclap, her pink suit a beacon of fury amid the crowd. She marched up with a stack of papers, flanked by 2 board members, demanding an immediate teardown. The HOA emergency meeting she called spilled onto the street. Residents spilling out from homes, phones recording the chaos. Jamal stood firm beside his creation, the structure looming as a silent ally. As Karen ranted about violations, though her arguments crumbled under scrutiny, the real injustice erupted. Hidden biases surfaced, raw and unfiltered. In the heat of the moment, Karen's composure cracked, her objections laced with undertones that revealed the truth. Discomfort with anything that challenged the whitewashed narrative of the community. Whispers from the crowd amplified. Old grievances aired, like the time she vetoed a Diwali lantern display or fined a Mexican family for piñatas. Jamal's sculpture became the flashpoint, drawing media vans that had caught wind through social media shares. Reporters swarmed, cameras capturing the divide. Karen's entourage versus a growing group of supporters, including diverse newcomers who saw Jamal's fight as their own. The intensity peaked when authorities arrived, summoned by Karen's frantic calls. Police cruisers pulled up, officers stepping out to assess the disturbance. Jamal's heart pounded, flashbacks to news stories of racial profiling flooding his mind, the fear that a simple dispute could escalate into danger. But his preparation paid off. Permits in hand, he presented evidence of compliance, including expert appraisals deeming the sculpture an asset. The officers, after reviewing, sided with legality, leaving Karen red-faced and isolated. As dusk fell, the crowd swelled with outsiders, tourists and activists alerted by viral posts. The sculpture's lights danced, turning the scene into a spectacle. Karen attempted a final stand, rallying loyalists for a vote, but defections mounted. Board members, pressured by the spotlight, wavered. Jamal watched as the emotional dam broke, tears from supporters, shouts of solidarity. This wasn't just about art. It exposed the rot of racism in everyday spaces, where rules masked prejudice. The climax crested with a local news crew interviewing Jamal, his story broadcasting live, the sculpture framing him as a symbol of unyielding spirit against systemic barriers. In the aftermath, the sculpture stood unchallenged, evolving from a point of contention into a celebrated landmark. The HOA, battered by public outcry, convened a special election where Karen Thompson was ousted as president. Her pink suits faded from neighborhood patrols as she retreated into seclusion, her influence shattered by investigations into biased enforcement. Jamal's creation drew visitors from across the state, families posing for photos, schools organizing field trips to discuss cultural heritage and civil rights. Media coverage amplified the story, sparking dialogues on suburban racism and inspiring similar acts of defiance in other communities. Jamal's family thrived in the newfound peace. His kids played freely, no longer shadowed by whispers, while Aisha joined a reformed HOA committee focused on inclusivity. The neighborhood transformed subtly. Diverse decorations appeared on lawns, block parties embraced varied cuisines. Jamal channeled the momentum into workshops, teaching architecture infused with cultural elements, empowering others to reclaim spaces. Yet the victory carried a bittersweet weight. It highlighted how racial injustice persists in polished facades, where symbols of heritage are deemed threats. Inspired by true events of discriminatory HOAs across America, this tale reminds us that change often starts with one bold stand against the status quo. What if your own neighborhood harbors hidden biases? How many unsightly rules mask deeper prejudice? If this story opened your eyes to the subtle ways racism infiltrates everyday life, hit that like button, subscribe for more tales of triumph over injustice, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Together, we can shine a light on these shadows.